Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another installment of Foundational Fridays on the Enlightenment and Transformation channel. I am your host, Yuya, Assaan-ANU, and in today's show, we'll be covering the concept of spiritual gifts, and more specifically, what are the spiritual gifts? Now, one of the reasons that I'm covering this now is because I've been doing a lot of meditation research, integrative analysis and exploration on the concepts of a spiritual life, spiritual healing, and really bringing out the highest level and quality of spiritual gifts and the people that I work with. As you know, by now, hopefully, that I do run classes teaching, spiritual knowing and deep thought and how to bring out the greater and highest aspects of yourself. So one of the things that I do consistently as a teacher is figure out different ways to tweak, customize, and modify my learning as well as my education methods in order to bring the best out in my students. Because, all in all, a teacher is known by his or her students. So it's really important to make sure that I always bring the highest and greatest level and quality of scholarship and pedagogy to the learning community, doing what I do. So with that, it's led me to really start to explore a lot more how to bring out the unearthly body or the unearthly talents that some people carry with them. So that really spawned this. I also began developing a website by the name of whatarethespiritualgifts.com. That's the letter I and whatarethespiritualgifts.com. And on that site, what I'm going to be doing is just really going through the various spiritual gifts and breaking them down and teaching people how to pull them out. And, it's a little different than what I do with the classes, where the classes are more hardcore and intense. And if you want to get into that, and really get to the level where not only you're pulling out your own spiritual gifts, but you're able to cultivate and develop those in your community and with your family as well, then of course I urge you to head over to Sadulu House and check out the spiritual training link, and you can sign up for classes there. Also, I'm gonna let everyone know about my other site that I very rarely mention, but that's because it's more of an umbrella site to all of the work that I do, and that's anunation.org. That's ANUNATION.org. Okay, and that site I really don't promote a lot of things on, but what I use it for is a central hub for all of my other sites. So there you'll find your links to Orisha religion, your links to the classes, your links to my personal page where I do workshops and lectures and things like that, as well as to my books and books that are forthcoming, and whatever's going on within my sphere of activity, you can always find on anunation.org. Okay, so I would urge anyone, if you ever interested in what I'm doing, or if you're trying to make a link with me or find out if I service in certain areas, check out there first. The site needs some some updating, because again, I don't use it much, but I figured I would let you all know, and I'll be updating it over the next couple of days to months, and adding everything. I will also be sending out a monthly newsletter very soon too, so look out for that. Those who have signed up over at Sadulu House and shared your email address, and if you haven't, I would urge you to, so you can stay abreast of what's going on. But in that that newsletter, what I'm also going to be doing in the coming months is offering free classes straight off of the Sadulu House page. They won't be as intricate as the classes that I currently run on Udemy, which is the Anu priesthood order, but they will be classes that will fill in some of the gaps, and at the end of the day, they're freebies. So, go and enjoy them. But those will be on the saduluhouse.org or .com, either one website, and you can check those out in the coming months. But, just keep an eye out for that newsletter. Make sure it doesn't go into your spam box, and that's where we'll be dealing with that. But enough with the announcements. Let's get back to today's topic, which is what are the spiritual gifts? Now, when we talk about spiritual gifts, the first thing I want to address is power. Okay. And as a heads up, this may be a shorter show because I don't want to go too long on this. I'll be covering this probably over the next few months. I'm going to be tapping into spiritual gifts and how to employ them and pull them out. So we're going to, revisit this theme, and the theme is also going to be interwoven into a lot of the other things that we do. But in any event, I want to talk about power relationships and the understanding and the perception of what power is. So a lot of times when we think about power, we think about evolution. And in this society, we define evolution by the ability to control your environment or by the complexity of an organism. So for instance, a monkey is considered to be a more complex organism than a fish, whereas a human is a more complex organism than a monkey. So, scientists have said, well, man, meaning man, woman, child, evolved from the fish and then came onto land and, eventually was the monkey and then, up to the man, the human, let me say that because there's a difference, or mankind. Okay. So, and that's what scientists say. But I'm just going to use that example for a moment when we talk about that. So what's considered now when we talk about power is we're talking about the ability to control your environment and your position on what we know to be the food chain, right? So, it's considered that a gorilla is higher on the food chain than an armadillo, okay, or a bluebird, based on one's perception, right? And also the complexity of the organism. So a lot of times people go into modes of fear and doubt when they feel that in some ways they're losing their ability to control their environment, i.e. they're losing their power. So what happens is the ego stands up and says, wait a minute, we're losing the power that we have that is recognized by the five senses. Okay. And it's good that we put a number on the senses, because if I can say five senses, then your first thing should be, well, what about the sixth sense, the seventh sense, the eighth sense? Because as long as there's a number on it, we know we can always go higher. Okay. But as individuals, we are multi-sensory beings. We have multi-senses, not just five, not just six, not just seven, not just eight, more than we've even been able to count at this point. And in reality, that is how we can define or do inventory and assessment on our spiritual gifts. Our spiritual gifts lie in our ability to recognize and be sensitive to true power. Okay. So let's go back to this again. So in a human thought perspective, we have power, right? And power deals with the five senses, what I can touch, see, smell, taste, hear, so forth and so on. These are the things that if I can control these things, I now have power. And we don't give much credence to the acute things in life, the unseen things in life, the things that go beyond the five senses, because those are considered to be smaller and very much uncontrollable. So they don't get tallied up when we speak about power. Okay. And when we fear or when we doubt or our ego kicks in, it's only and always based on a loss of that five sensory power, which is, as I've told you many times, illusionary. Because anything that is perceived with the five senses is not real. It's a shadowed projection. You're not seeing or feeling the real thing of it. Okay. Or the spirit of it, or the soul of it, where in fact the true power lies. Okay. But in this society, because that is the perception of power, Now what happens is strife, because that is so fragile. It's so fallible. It's so mutable that we're constantly feeling changes in our environment that we can't control. So therefore, we're constantly put in a place of fear, because we're always feeling like we're waiting for the next disaster. We're waiting for the next thing to disrupt our environment that we cannot control. Okay. And you're wondering, yes, this is very much tied to what are the spiritual gifts. Okay. So we're getting to that. But I know most of the time when we speak about spiritual gifts, you know, people will speak about prophecy or clairvoyance, or wisdom is considered a spiritual gift. The laying on of hands, healing, foresight, divination. You know, these are the things that one thinks of when we say spiritual gifts, or as we know in the Torah or the Bible, we call them the fruits of the Spirit. And we have fruits of the Spirit, but then we have also the gifts of the Holy Spirit. And they're actually two different things. In coming shows, I will get into the difference between them and how they apply to us, even those of us who are not acknowledged Christians. Okay? Because as you know by now, I pull from everything because everything is mine. I don't have to relinquish anything just because someone grabs it and puts their stamp on it. No, it's still mine. All of the deep thought of the world, all of the higher level calculation, all of the beauty, all of the wisdom, all of the comparative analysis, and the billions upon billions of years of experience is mine. I own it, me. And the reason why I own it is because I have no birth date. I don't know how old I am because the blood that's in me is ancient. You know, I could maybe say I'm as old as my father or my mother based on the blood that they gave me. But then I'd have to say, well, maybe I'm as old as their father and mother because of the blood that they gave me. And then I'd have to say I'm as old as their father and mother because of the blood they gave me. So you get where I'm saying, where I'm going with this. It just goes on and on and on and on and on and on. So in actuality, we are ancient beings. Our spiritual gifts come into play when we're able to pull and be sensitive to those lifetimes, that blood that's in us, and all of the talents and the abilities and the sensitivities that lie in it. Okay, so I had a wonderful conversation with someone last night in reference to a show that I'm going to be doing soon. I had mentioned this to you all, the relationship show, and we did an interview for it previously, and which I will be airing. But right now I'm just doing pre-recorded interviews. And one of the things that he had said was that we were talking about, you know, men and women. And he said, you know, men are faster, stronger, have quicker reflexes. And, you know, he kind of went down a list of the things where men are more advanced, or we could even say more evolved than women. And all of these things are perfectly true. You know, we were built in the physical world to be bigger, stronger, faster, and we think differently. Make no mistake about it. Now, a lot of people have problems with this one because they feel that we can do what each other does, and that's not true. You may be able to do some of the things that a woman does or some of the things that a man does, but what does it do to you afterwards? What kind of damage might it cause in the long run? Okay, but that's another conversation. But the point is where I bring this up because yes, in the physical arena, an arena of time and space, of condensed matter, or of, we'll throw an Odu in here, the sacred Odu of Idi Meji, where we're speaking about coming to formation, okay, condensing the matter. All right, this would also be the hexagram and the I King of Gin, or Kin, which is the mountain. Okay, condensed matter. So in the world of condensed matter, the five senses, the things that you can touch, sure, men are stronger, definitely. Men are more powerful. And I know many listening and saying, well, what about childbirth? And that, yeah, I hear you loud and clear. But when we just look at the physical anatomy of a man versus the physical anatomy of a woman, we're built for different things. So where is the woman's arena? Okay. The woman is infinitely more spiritually gifted than the man. Why is that? Because let's look at the concept of intelligence, right? Intelligence is typically measured by your capacity to retain information. Not only retain it, but assimilate it or process it, synthesize it, and retain it and recollect it. Okay, that is a measurement of your logical or linear intelligence. So how would we measure emotional or spiritual intelligence, right? Okay, spiritual intelligence is measured by your sensitivity to the unseen energies that surround and live within condensed matter. Okay, so it's your sensitivity. I've always said that women are far more spiritually sensitive than men are. Okay, now again, I know some could argue with this, and some might even try to use me for the example and say, yeah, but what about all the women that you're teaching right now? Yeah, one of the reasons that I'm teaching so many women right now is because the world is topsy-turvy. So I would love, one of the reasons that I teach all the women so I can get to a place where I don't have to do that. In all honesty, I prefer to teach men, and I prefer to teach men and then let them go back and share it with their families, because the work when it comes to ego and when it comes to spiritual sensitivity and spiritual intelligence, there's more work that needs to be done with the men than with the women. And if the men do right, then the communities will have the structure that has been missing for so long, if the men are spiritually matured and erect. But let's get back to spiritual gifts. Okay, so our spiritual gifts are measured by our sensitivity and our capacity to feel. So what is one spiritual gift that we know many women have, and many women hate having it? Sensitivity. So many women say, I'm so sensitive. Or when you're having a discussion with them, they start crying or their eyes start tearing up and they say, I hate when I do this. I didn't want to do this. That's a gift. Okay, that's a gift. The ability to do that. Some women don't have that gift. Some men don't have that gift. They're not aware of when energy is being moved, whether it's being extracted from them or it's being pushed to them. This is a spiritual sensitivity, because underneath energy is spirit. Okay, energy is like what we call in Yoruba ojiji. Okay, or electromagnetic matter. Okay, electromagnetic force. We'll say that. Okay, so your ability to feel that is actually a spiritual gift, because if you can feel it, you can speak to it. If you can speak to it, because you have the spark of Olodumare, you have a soul. Because you can speak to the spirit of a thing, you can command the spirit of a thing. So, for women or men, because I'm sensitive too, so I'm not going to exclude the men who are like me. I'm definitely a man who cries, so I won't even pretend not to be as macho as people think I am. And maybe I am. Maybe my pendulum swings wide in each direction. I could probably believe that. But I'm also a man who has no problem with crying, or because I'm very sensitive to energy. And because I'm sensitive to energy, I'm able to extract and manipulate energy in just about any situation. Okay? So one of the things that brings us to is, if you're in a situation where the feelings are high or it's intense, as a woman or as a man, anyone who has that spiritual gift of emotional sensitivity, you can actually transform the situation. This is an Oya ability. This is an Oya ability. The ability to transform in an instant the energy of a thing. Now, ironically enough, this is also the definition of the word witch. The old definition of the word witch, or wajet, was one who could bend energy in an instant. Okay, she was so scary because she had the ability to do that. Okay, like I was talking to a woman not too long ago, and I had a really hilarious just image in my head, and I asked her, I said, have you ever seen anyone cry and laugh at the same time? I have before. It's just the funniest thing you could possibly ever see. I mean, if you ever get an opportunity to see it, don't walk away. Like if you're out in public, or you're on the train or on the bus or you're driving, pull over and watch it. It's really, really funny to see someone crying and laughing at the same time. And it's hard. Try it. Next time you're crying, try to laugh. And next time you're laughing, try to cry. It's really tough. It's like patting your stomach and rubbing your head and then swapping it. It's one of those type of things. So, all jokes aside, although I am serious about that, if you get an opportunity to check that out, check it out. But that ability to bend things quickly, you really usually don't find men who have that talent, or who have the ability to really sense what's going on in a room and dissect it like women do. That's one of the reasons that great rulers always kept women around them. Lots of women, whether they were their concubine or whether they were their multiple consorts, because the women were almost like a force field that would surround them with this ability to pick up and sense and act as a barometer and a meter for the energy that was going on in the space. Okay, so this is a spiritual gift. So now let's get back to our other spiritual gifts. Sure, we do have prophecy. Sure, we have speaking in tongues. Sure, we have the translation of speaking in tongues. Sure, we have rituals. We have bringing things to manifestation through word. We have all of those things. But let's go back again to our misconception of power, where we think that power is a relationship between doing and manifested matter. But now we've figured out that power, true power, is not really a relationship between things that manifest. Power is a true relationship between things that have yet to manifest, things in the unseen world. And the reason we know that is this. A world which fights, or a world that is full of war and full of strife, is the same thing as a schizophrenic planet. I mean, that's basically what it is, right? So let's look at a family, right? A family that fights amongst itself is a schizophrenic family, right? Because when you come into alignment with true power, you come into alignment with your higher self, or as we know to be your Ori Iponri, okay? Or your guru self, your crown chakra, whatever word you want to use for it, your deepest self. Some might even say their God, their higher self. When you're in alignment with that force and that energy, in truth, at that time, you've now finally tapped into your power. When you are experiencing strife amongst those who you should be unified with, you have now just experienced the loss of true power, because now you're only battling with dead appendages. What are the dead appendages? Anything that exists in the 5 sensory reality or the 3-dimensional reality. Those things are dead. The things that are alive, the things that are real, are the things that are the soul reality. You tap into that through your sensitivity. So who is more spiritually gifted? The one who is more sensitive. The one who is more quicker to strip away ego and to move to a space of humility in order to align with their higher self. This is the entrance into the world of spiritual gifts. I want you to be clear on that. Humility and alignment with higher self is the way you tap into your spiritual gifts. Now, of course, there's many ways to get to that path. Sometimes there are many blockages in front of that path. Sometimes we're enacting our ego and we have no idea that we're doing it. We think we're just defending ourselves, right? But then as you begin to learn more, you realize that you're attacking yourself and defending yourself. So you're schizophrenic. And we know a body that fights against itself develops immune deficiency syndrome. Okay? So that's never a good thing, right? Because then our body becomes cancerous. So if you have a spirit that's fighting against your soul's mission and aligning with your soul, right? Then in essence, you have a spirit that has cancer or AIDS, right? Because it's fighting against itself. It's trying to eat itself. And then what happens is now you become more susceptible, just like people who have HIV, you become more susceptible to other disease. And then you come to me and you say, somebody put a hex on me and this. No, that's not what happened. You're just more susceptible to things because you're fighting against yourself. You're not tapping into your spiritual gift of sensitivity, which brings you into a place of alignment which now allows you to do anything and everything you could possibly imagine. Okay? So let's go through what some of the spiritual gifts are. Spiritual gifts are a sensitivity to sound. That's a spiritual gift. A sensitivity to sight and things that are seen. Okay, these are spiritual gifts. Now, when I say a sensitivity, I'm not talking about I can hear really good. No, the spiritual sensitivity lies in here. When you say to someone, yeah, I heard you, but I also heard what you mean. I hear what's underneath the words. Okay. That's not just from reading someone's physiology, okay, their body language, they shift it. No, when you can actually hear something, sometimes someone will talk to you and you can hear them screaming and they're smiling and saying, could you do me a favor next time you come by my desk? Could you, if you want to borrow my stapler, it's okay. But just do me a favor, if you could put it back, because it was crazy. I was looking for my stapler and I had to put these TP reports together and I couldn't find a stapler. So I was all over the office and I walked into your office and, I found it there on top of your tissues. It looked like you had a used tissue on top of my stapler. So, I'm just going to borrow some of this Lysol here and some of this Purell and disinfect my hands. But, if you could, if it's not too much, if you could. Now, they're screaming at you and their mind is stabbing you in your temple with a uniball pen. Okay. Because you took their stapler. Right. So this is just a very small and theatrical example, I guess we could say, of a sensitivity. Right. So some also have the sensitivity to vision in that they can see things before they happen. Right. So the false vision is saying to you that whatever you see in front of your eyes right now is what it is. The power vision, the one where real power lies, is showing you that there is no time. That's a masculine thing. Your masculine energy wants you to believe in this concept of time, but your feminine aspect of you knows that there's a concept that we know as olokun, or also what we call space. Okay, so I just gave you a little fun fact there. Olokun governs the aspect of space between objects. That is olokun. Okay, the sea deity or sea archetype, which is a better way to put that. Olokun, owner of the sea. Okay, so in any event, the feminine energy will feel space before it feels time. Okay, that is a spiritual sensitivity. One of the things that you're going to understand that in order to truly be spiritually sensitive, you have to allow your feminine aspect to take the lead in your spirit work, because the feminine aspect is receptive. So your spiritual gifts all lie in the areas that you are more receptive in. Okay? Your spiritual gifts lie in the particular areas that you have a greater receptivity to. That is where your spiritual gifts are. Okay? So, again, this is not when I say masculine and feminine, this is not really to cause strife between the two, because we all have each inside of us, and we have to learn to balance them and exploit them. And in doing this, we tap into our spiritual gifts. Now, in up and coming shows, I will be getting into this a lot more. Like I said, I'm actually going to be dissecting this and itemizing it bit by bit and going through various spiritual gifts and showing you how to increase your sensitivity to those individual gifts. Okay. So with that said, remember to pick up a copy of Grasping the Root of Divine Power. It also helps too, because sometimes I'm getting these emails sometimes of certain questions that I'm just going to say at this point, just pick up the book. You can get it on Kindle for $4. And I think also Google Books has it in PDF or EPUB for like $3.99. You can afford that. Okay. You can find that on the ground somewhere. And if not, just get the paperback, which I think is only like $11 and change. Okay. So as always help me to help you. But in any event, it's been wonderful. And that is today's show. and we will be getting into more later. And in the meantime, if you want to sign up for classes and get into the more hardcore aspects and move closer to your priesthood training and your spiritual training and become that, definitely head over to saduluhouse.com and click the link for spiritual training, and it gives you some information there on where you can sign up for classes. And like I said, look out for the newsletter, and you can always go pick up a copy of the free Orisha mixtapes at orishareligion.com. But until next time, I am your host, Yuya Assaan-ANU, signing off. It's been wonderful. Peace.